Hey guys, it's Flake, and I got a nice, spicy little tasty nugget for you guys today. If you're caught it on stream, you saw me sort of struggling with this a little bit and sort of tuning it for the past couple days before I gathered some gameplay footage to present to you Mirror Tip. It's a woodland-based deck with a kind of an interesting little ending piece to it, so we'll walk through the deck and hope you enjoy it, my friends. All right, so we're back to monsters for another deck to show you. Now, again, little disclaimer here, this is not going to get you to pro rank. It's probably not going to get you all that far, but it's something definitely a little bit different that you guys can try out, when you're just dicking around in casual and trying to, have a little fun and try something new. So here it is, my friends. This is Mirror Tip, and I'm going to, once again, same strategy. I'm just going to go through the cards and then explain them as I'm going of what they're for and how the strategy kind of coalesces here. So real quick through the bronzes we go. Now again, the standard thinning plays, easy 4-point bronzes. We've got the 2 Foglets, standard thinning bronzes. I've got 2 Necker Warriors, and the reason why I'm going with Necker Warriors instead of, let's say, standard Neckers is that the 4 strength ceiling for these is actually quite nice because you will be playing a lot of big minions, but at the same time 4 strength tends to dodge a lot of removal that's out there. A lot of 2-point damages out there, a lot of 3-point damages out there. So the Necker at 4 can have a little bit of sustainability on the board. I've got 2 Drowners at now the 2 points obviously are going to probably be this thing's very unlikely to stick to the board, but at the same time you can push some Hawker Smugglers back a row. You can mess around with some of your opponent's lines, and if it sticks, you got Thrive, so we're good to go. So I got 2 of these. I've also got 2 Wyverns, again, more Thrive units. You want to be able to chain some points going, but 2 Wyverns, 2 damage, 3 body, and Thrive. And then I've got, here we go, so 2 Wild Hunt Riders, standard procedure, just more thinning, 8-point play, and often gets a trigger off of your the Thrive for your Wyvern, the Thrive for your Drowner as well. And then we have 2 Cyclopses. Again, Cyclopses in many cases are just to either use with the Foglet to thin out, to spot check certain engine pieces early game. At the same time, you can always use the Cyclops just to throw your Caldwell across the board if he ever becomes threatened. So that's a good backup plan as well. And finally, well, not quite finally, but 2 Ice Giants. Now, this is where these things get a little bit different. Ice Giants are just reliable 7-point vanillas, and it's no big deal because what they do is they just slam on the board, trigger all the Thrives, and you want to be aggressive early with this deck because you want to be sure to have last say in the last game so that you can go ahead and pretty much just, smack your opponent around with your final combo and catch them by surprise. But Ice Giants make for great early game pressure or mid game, keeping up with your opponent there. And finally, there's the Ghouls. So the Ghouls are one of the easy early game mulligans to toss away because they're not going to connect with anything in round 1, obviously. But the Ghouls are prime targets are obviously the Ice Giants that you saw, becoming a 8.6 provision card out of your own graveyard. Now, if they do happen to miss the Ice Giants altogether, connecting with a 5-point Cyclops is not the end of the world. It still becomes a 6.6 provision card, which is pretty much on par for what you're going to get for 6 provisions. Now, let's go to the gold pieces, and I'll go through them systematically here so you can get the sort of peripheral stuff, the peripheral golds, before we get to the spicy meatballs. But here we go. Alpha Werewolf, 5 provision for 4 immune points and Thrive. This is probably one of the best cheap cards that you can get in the monsters class. This easily grows up to be 6-7 points, and in some cases 8 points. So you'll never it's a great card to play in round 1, in round 2, and should you have it in round 3, you won't necessarily hate it because if you do it properly, this can become a 7-point card in a short round. Let's see. Now we're going to go up to Fisher King. Fisher King is essentially, you're using this in round 1 or dropping it in round 2 and passing in order to get the combo piece that you need. And I'll tell you what the combo pieces are, but Fisher King is self-explanatory. You drop it on the ranged row and you pick what you're going to draw next round. Obviously in round 3, you're mulliganing this away like the plague. You do not want to see this in round 3, but keep it there. All right. Caldwell. I've got Count Caldwell because in a monsters deck, you're always going to go tall, and you're always going to, at least in most cases against anything but monsters, you're always going to have the tallest unit. So Caldwell is there because 10 points for 8 provision that are fairly safe and reliable. You don't want to throw that away. That is a Count Caldwell is appearing in other decks now, but as a monsters player with a woodland leader backup, you should usually be safe with Caldwell, and I'm fairly aggressive with him as well. If I have something like Cyclops in my back pocket, I usually open with Caldwell, or I play him fairly aggressively to really tell your opponent that you mean business. And Caldwell can usually start absorbing certain damage units and damage spells to keep him down, which would otherwise hit your Thrive units or your engine pieces. So this is a great card to play proactively. Beyond that, I have Old Spear Tip Asleep, just 9 points for 10, vanilla, standard procedure over here. And now we get to the interesting part right after Oswald. Now, Oswald typically was going to eat your Caldwell. He might eat your other Spear Tip. He might eat your opponent's Caldwell out of his graveyard. But nonetheless, Oswald typically has some usage, because even with Yuta or Juta or whatever she wants to go by, you'll always be able to connect with something big in your deck, or even better, out of your opponent's deck. So Oswald's always going to find some love. Now here we go. Now we're going to get to the actual combo pieces. So the combo piece revolves around Spear Tip. The Spear Tip is a 15 provision, 12-point vanilla card. It's really nothing special besides the fact that it is literally a giant meteor strike of points into the board. Vulnerable to so many different things. It's vulnerable to Geralt and Leo and Scorch, and all kinds of nonsense is going to probably kick the crap out of this. It finds a house for beefed up Skags. So you're wondering, what's this big special piece about Spear Tip? Well, I will tell you, and that is because we pair him up with Caranthir. So the way that this works is your round 3 should have a 4-piece combo. Caranthir, Old Spear Tip, Awake and Enraged. You're going to also have Lady of the Lake, which is going to provide a shield. And finally, the pièce de résistance, Bekker's Dark Mirror. Now, this is how the combo works. In sequence, you are going to be playing, as your 4 final cards, Lady of the Lake. Now, I usually beef her up with Woodland Spirit, unless I have Last Say, but usually it's not the case. I usually beef up Lady of the Lake with Woodland Spirit, because at the very least, it gives you a top dog, and it might even be able to fish out something big from your opponent, like a Geralt or a Leo or something. So Lady of the Lake, as a 12-point card, hits the board with a shield. She can absorb a crap ton of damage, and we're good. Then what we do is we play Caranthir. Caranthir comes out, and he will be pairing up with your Old Spear Tip. So now you have Lady of the Lake, Caranthir, and a 1-point Spear Tip. You then play the Lady of the Lake shield onto the 1-point Spear Tip. And keep in mind, the Spear Tip is not set to one strength. It is taking 11 damage. So that's important, because with that 1-point Spear Tip on the board, with the shield protecting it from all kinds of nonsense, what you then can do is go ahead and play Bekker's Dark Mirror for a 22-point boost. That is enormous. So 22-point boost means you have a 23-point shielded unit on your board, meaning that Skags can't touch it, meaning that all kinds of other nonsense can't touch it. Now, obviously, you're going to have your opponent might Geralt it or this or that. It's going to happen. And again, like I said, this deck isn't a top-notch deck, but at the same time, you will still have another copy of Spear Tip in your deck. And beyond that, should it happen where you get your Spear Tip killed, your big Spear Tip, you still have Oswald to possibly go ahead and eat that extra Spear Tip out of your graveyard. So there's so many different ways to actually line this up to have an enormous amount of points in a small package. Now, is it a reliable combo? No, because you got to have a 4-piece, instrumental symphony in order to get this to pop off the right way. At the same time, your opponent's probably going to be doing stuff to mess you up, and that's why we played Lady of the Lake. We used to do this without Lady of the Lake and have it as a 3-card combo, but the problem there was that with Gregoire de Gorgon all over the place, that 1-point Spear Tip is just asking for it. So we did not do that. We usually have to back it up with the Lady of the Lake. So there it is. That's how this deck goes. We'll go through the cards once again real quick. 2 times Foglet, 2 times Necker Warrior, 2 times Drowner, 2 times Wyvern, 1 time Alpha Werewolf, 2 Ghouls, 2 Wild Hunt Riders. I have 2 Cyclopses, Fisher King, Lady of the Lake, 2 Ice Giants, Caranthir, Count Caldwell, Ozrel, Bekker's Dark Mirror, Old Speartip Asleep, and Old Speartip. And again, you always have Woodland Spirit as your backup for 8 points of jam onto the board. Now, why Woodland Spirit? Because it's 16 provisions. It gives you so much room to grow and so much room to jam. You can go ahead and really mess around with this deck you want, but that's the list I'm going, and that's the combo I want to show you. So that's it. That is Mirror Tip. I don't know. I couldn't come up with a good name for it. Maybe you can probably give me a better name for it. If you do, go ahead and drop it in the comments here on this YouTube channel. But again, this deck is not going to take you to pro rank. It's just going to give you a few chuckles here and there and catch a few people off guard, which is what the whole point of the game can be sometimes, is just having some fun and trying new things, because meta can change and you never know. Who knows? Maybe one day this is going to be this is going to be top tits in the world of Gwent, but I highly doubt it. Nonetheless, it is a lot of fun to pull off, and it catches a lot of people by surprise, and it was a fun to put together. Now, on your end, if you want to, go ahead and mess around with the bronzes, the gold package, but you have to remember that the 4 key ingredients is Old Speartip, Caranthir, Bekker's Dark Mirror, and Lady of the Lake. That's what you need. If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe here on YouTube. You can drop a comment as well. I love to see those. And go catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/WatchFlake, or on Twitter at WatchFlake as well. Be kind to one another. Thank you so much for watching, and adios.